Mrs. Emily Tyler, I'm writing to you today to express my deepest sympathies of your husband, Brigadier General Daniel Tyler's death in the Battle of 2nd Fredericksburg some weeks back. This nation owes you and your late husband's family a great debt, a family with a lineage to the founding of our nation. General Tyler's father served at Bunker Hill, and now General Tyler's supreme sacrifice at Fredericksburg have not been in vain. General McClellan informs me that were it not for the heroics of your late husband, the defeat at Fredericksburg might well have become a rout this nation may not have recovered from. It is only possible that this nation exists because of people like your husband. I know these paltry words cannot do much to reassure, for what are the words of a grateful man when weighed against the loss of a husband? Nevertheless, amidst the greatest difficulties in life, when we cannot see any but despair and tragedy, I have always found great comfort in placing my whole reliance on God, knowing that all will go well and that He would decide for us what is right. Therefore, I hope that you might find comfort, never doubting that a just God, in His own time, will give us a rightful result. And with men such as your husband's support, no matter what the cost, I know this to be the outcome Providence will grant us. With kindness and a firm affection, President Abraham Lincoln. Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Grand Tactician, the Civil War, an upcoming strategy and tactics war game that takes place during the American Civil War and allows you to play through the war as either the Union or the Confederates, making key strategic decisions such as raising armies, assigning commanders, telling your soldiers where to go, and when armies do meet, you end up getting to fight tactical battles in kind of a total war sort of a way. It is October 15th, 1861 of our Let's Play series. We're playing as the Union, and early on in the summer of 1861, we were actually able to take Richmond, the Confederate capital, and the war looked to be going really well before a series of defeats at Yorktown, Richmond, and then Manassas, Fredericksburg, where General Daniel Tyler was killed, our first sort of commanding general not commanding, but he was a divisional commander who was killed. And the Army of the Potomac has been pushed back to Manassas. George B. McClellan is in command of that force. We have about 22,000 troops. We've transferred a whole bunch of troops there to try and strengthen this force. It only had about 11,000 infantry before. Now we have, I want to say, around like 16,000 infantry. Maybe even a little bit more than that, maybe closer to 18,000 infantry with another 4,000 cavalry and artillery. We have some additional artillery and cavalry on the way, but the army has largely been reformed and strengthened. We're not strong enough yet to retake the offensive against the Confederates, and it looks like they're coming for us. It looks like the South Carolina State Militia is coming for us. We also have about 6,000 soldiers currently who are casualties. Basically, they're temporarily either sick or they're wounded. The 5,900 wounded soldiers will eventually slowly filter back into our troops, into our lines, and eventually bring us closer to about 30,000 troops. The situation in the rest of the campaign, or the rest of the war, is going a little bit better. We've recently thrown back another assault near Wheeling with General Patterson in command of a force of about 10,000 men there in sort of the northern passes near Pittsburgh. West Virginia is about to be invaded by the Army of the Ohio under Don Carlos Buell. It actually is a force of 31,000 troops, and so we are going to go ahead and send them into Western Virginia with the goal of taking Grafton. But that's, we're waiting for the readiness on this army to get up. It is good. The readiness is actually excellent. It's in green, but I'd like it to get all the way up to the top. Plus it is October, so winter may be coming. General Grant did drive as far as Gailey Bridge down in the southern portion of West Virginia here, and he took Charleston, West Virginia, key city there. So the flank there has at least been temporarily taken to secure Buell. Meanwhile, Grant is moving into Kentucky to kind of try and do a two-pronged advance there. So General Grant is on his way and will eventually make a move toward the Cumberland Gap down the eastern side of Kentucky, retaking towns like London on the way. And then we have a new army that's currently being raised at Louisville under General Sumner that will bring about, I think I'm raising 3 divisions here under General Sumner. It'll end up being 23,000 soldiers. But most of these troops are still recruiting and will be recruiting for about 2 more weeks. We have division commanders of William T. Sherman, and then John Reynolds has just been promoted to division commander. So we'll have 3 divisions attacking down there and moving toward Bowling Green. and perhaps threatening Nashville. On the Mississippi River, Cairo is currently blockaded, although the Confederates have at least been prevented from moving north. We have 4 timber-clad gunboats currently there while we're building 4 tin-clad gunboats, but the tin-clad gunboats are a ways away from being completed. It looks like it's the New Orleans squadron that is besieging us here, so we'll have to see what our ability is to maybe break out of there once those troops are ready. And in the last video, we won a battle in front of St. Louis with the Department of the West under William Harney, throwing back the Missouri State Guard, inflicting about 1,400 casualties. And in today's video, we're going to pursue them. But I think the most likely thing that we're going to see here, based on what we're seeing by the drive of the South Carolina State Militia, is probably a Battle of Manassas, with the Union Army of the Potomac under General McClellan being on the defensive. So let's go ahead and unpause and see how things play out. Yep, you can see PG-2 Beauregard is in the process of attacking us with 18,000 men under the South Carolina State Militia and 31 guns. We're defending with 22,000 men and 19 guns. Of those 22,000, 16,900 are infantry, with General George B. McClellan as the commander. And you can see here, some units of ours have low morale. About 6 brigades, just shy of 8,000 men, have low morale. So this may influence our ability to fight. But we are going to fight. We are going to try and hold this position and ensure the Confederates don't get any closer to Washington. So we have about 22,000 men under General McClellan. The Confederacy has about 19,000 men. The Confederacy really doesn't invest much in cavalry, and so I've been kind of shifting my focus to that, to mirror that approach. We generally are going to just go with like 1 brigade of about 2,000 cavalry per army. So we're on the deployment phase. Actually, we're on the offensive. The enemy has captured superior ground and is defending. You must assume the aggressive and drive him from his positions to win. Dear God, why are we attacking? So where are the objectives we have to take? They look like they're on the eastern edge of the map. We're using the Bull Run map, and it looks like the objectives are down here near Blackburn's Ford, and I'm guessing that's McLean down there. So to that extent, I'll go ahead and deploy the army forward. Oh shit, well they're not down there. So it looks like they're actually taking up defensive positions on Henry Hill. As far as I can tell, they're not dug in, although this is the deployment phase, so they could change. That could change. What do we want to... Where do we want to deploy our own artillery? Hunt's artillery batteries. Deploy the artillery on the left, I would guess. Okay, which divisions are... So Shank's division is confident. He's probably our best division. So let's do this. We're going to move Shank on this roadway here, maybe into the rear of the Confederate position along this roadway. And then we'll move Hunter. We're going to move his men into single file or single line. And Runyon along this way. Meanwhile, Hunt will move his batteries over here, although they'll have to close the distance. All right, we're also going to tell all of our troops to open fire at long range. And then Buford, who's infamous and... Okay, so Buford's cavalry, 2 of our 6 brigades that aren't happy are cavalry, which I'm okay with. We're going to try and use this roadway to flank the enemy position on this road. Doesn't look like the enemy's dug in, so that's good news. Move at ×2 speed. 2 of Hunter's brigades and 2 of Runyon's are the unhappy ones. The enemy appears to be moving forward some skirmishers off this hill. So I'm going to move these guys into position behind these fences. These two divisions will move in here. The artillery is apparently feuding with its commander. Move these guns over here to bombard from. It looks like this is a little bit of a slope. So move them over there. What are there, 2 batteries over? We have more than 2. Oh, I think 2 of our batteries aren't ready yet. They aren't finished constructing. Well, that's going to suck. So that means we're only going to have 19 guns. And then I think once we've kind of pinned them in place, we're going to have Shank move his division over here to try and flank the enemy. Well, they're probably going to move around here and respond to our advance a bit. This isn't, the interesting thing is this isn't an objective, so they could certainly turn to try and fall back on an actual objective. Looks like the line extends pretty far south, actually. So I think they're pulling back off of Henry Hill, which would actually be great if I could bring my artillery up there. There are some entrenchments here to the south, it looks like. Wingo's brigade is down here, and they're dug in. Let's use our cavalry, I guess, to scout things out a bit. Put them in these woods. I'm going to take the 1st Massachusetts Cavalry and swing down this road. Actually, let's do the 1st Maine. Wait to see when those orders are there. They're there already. All right. Okay, so enemy trenches here. Trenches are particularly difficult to dislodge. The enemy is shifting probably to avoid my flanking maneuver. They can already see their flank is in danger. The enemy definitely has more guns than I do. Okay. Shank's division is coming up. It's 1500 hours, so the battle started sort of midday. A little bit of artillery fire going on. No casualties so far in Dixon Miles Brigade. All right, so they are pulling back. All right, well, in that case, if they're going to withdraw from here, let's go ahead and swing Hunter's division up through these woods and up onto Henry Hill. Reboard, Springfield, Springfield. Curious to see what the enemy does. They're marching in long columns. They're still pulling back. All right, let's advance those troops. I'd consider charging this artillery if it gets too far out ahead of the rest of the men, but I'm not going to charge it if they're in musket range of the troops that they have down here to the south. The redeployment of these Confederate troops is probably smart, but it is a little bit... It's sort of a combination of, yes, it's actually probably smart, and it's a bit of a mess. Like, maybe they should have had a better position at the start. Artillery is still coming up. Move Buford using the Alt tab and then right click. Multiple entrenchments here. 2 brigades are in entrenchments as well as a battery of artillery. All right, let's go get the first Maine to engage this enemy brigade of infantry. We're going to move Shank up into these woods, presumably behind the rear of the enemy line. He'll be linked up with David Hunter's division. Is there anything I can do to pin these guys in place? Like, can I start shooting at them and force them to stay where they are? Union's division has reboard, Springfield rifle, Springfield. So they're going to turn to meet me. And we're underway. The first shots have been fired. So our cavalry is 37 versus 13. We're definitely going to lose more men than we kill in this particular fight. Guns are still trying to get into place. Advance your division here. Right, fall back. We'll give Gibbs the order to fall back. Or hopefully he does before he routes. He's cut off, I think, so that may be a problem. Alright, 1st Pennsylvania's opening fire on Grattan's brigade. Meanwhile, we've got the 2nd New York firing on Grattan. 9. All right, so we've got a slight advantage, it seems. Come on, Tyler, get your division moving. Or Hunter, not Tyler. He's never going to get his orders there. Get over there, Buford. You're not outflanked. What are you talking about? Alright, so Cheatham is taking 273, so we're losing more men, and Gibbs is not looking so great. Get your troops in front of this cavalry. I don't want this brigade to just rout because they're stuck. .532. We have started, the weight of manpower is giving the enemy something to think about. Both the brigades that are engaged or with our infantry are losing worse than their getting here. Let's get McClellan up a little bit closer. Don't get yourself killed, Mac. All right, so we broke Cheatham's brigade, over 800 casualties inflicted. Go ahead and hit Bragg's next. Continue the attempt to roll up the enemy position here, avoiding these entrenchments. I've issued orders to Schenck to come up behind the enemy line as well. McClellan is also coming closer to try and get those orders there quicker. Alright, Grattan's brigade we're kind of pinning in place so the enemy can't too easily reposition his troops to deal with our flanking attack. We've moved on to Bragg's brigade now. 2nd Pennsylvania is not taking any casualties, but they are sure firing into the enemy position. They fired 11 volleys without taking a single casualty. The 3rd Ohio, meanwhile, very tired. They fired 5 volleys, losing 8 men. The 1st New York has lost 16 men and fired 5 volleys. Losing more heavily, the 1st Pennsylvania. They're 2-star experienced troops. They're fighting Gratian's brigade. 3rd New York is also supporting them. Oh, they're not actually shooting, are they? Could charge with this cavalry here. But I'd rather not at the moment. Bragg has lost almost 400 men. Grattan's brigade is losing steadily. Can you halt and just open fire? First battle here for the 3rd New York. Using their reboard muskets. We have the enemy in a bit of a vice. Schenck is coming up. Sometimes the auto snap on terrain is not helpful. Cheatham's still losing men. He's lost 1,200 casualties. You know, it looks like they did push the 3rd New York back. They only lost 100 men. Henry Burton's troops broke and ran after only losing 100 casualties. But Gratian's brigade has also been driven back. Meanwhile, Bragg's brigade is also losing heavily. Third New York, I'm ashamed of you boys. Cavalry's largely just taking artillery fire mainly as a diversion to hopefully pin these enemy troops in place. Alright, Bragg is broken. And we're coming up to the rear of the enemy. So Bragg, Cheatham, and Gratios, not Gratians, Gratiot's brigade. 3 enemy infantry brigades driven back. We've lost 1. I'm going to order the cavalry to charge. For the 3rd Division under Runyon. Cavalry, why are you charging in that direction? How about you just halt? Don't charge anymore. I wanted you to go straight at him, not like some roundabout way. Come on, 2nd and 3rd divisions. Keep up the pressure. We gotta rout their army, boys. It's 1800 hours now, so it is getting later in the day. Question of whether this battle continues into a second day will be interesting. You can see Buckner's brigade is falling back. Burnside and Hooker engaged. Cheatham is getting apparently volleyed at from his front. Bledsoe's battery is also taking some fire. Keep up the pressure, boys. Pour it into them. All right, if they're going to be there all by themselves, go ahead and charge. Why do they have to run all the way up? There's a roadway here. Guess you can't charge through a fence. I mean, that makes some sense. Well, for cavalry, anyway. So Buckner's falling back. He hasn't been routed, but he is pulling back. Meanwhile, the cavalry here, the problem is these guys are charging into woods. So I don't know how well they'll do. But the enemy is broken, so hopefully they can force him to surrender, maybe. Says they have poor melee skills, but the enemy's broken, so hopefully they don't break themselves. Stable, 100 men lost for Stone's brigade, just taking artillery fire. Why don't you fall back a little bit on that reverse slope? God, my troops are not pushing forward. Come on, men. It's like half of them just decided they were done fighting. Shank's brigade is in action here against Buckner's detachment. $1,600 casualties for Bragg's brigade. We might wipe that brigade out. I wonder if we could force him to surrender. The cavalry didn't lose anything, by the way, attacking those guys, but they are inflicting enemy casualties. So I guess like being in the enemy rear, maybe that actually mattered. They couldn't retreat through our lines because they did kind of try and go that way, and then they retreated the other way. They're up to 900 casualties, by the way. Just surrender already, Bragg. So I guess the cavalry is doing its job here. Approaching 2,000 casualties, less than 500 men left. Meanwhile, it looks like Bledsoe's battery lost 50% casualties and is routed. Walker's battery lost 50% casualties and is routed. And that's the end of the day. Alright, so the enemy withdrew at the end of that first day's fight. A minor federal victory. So basically the Confederates came up and attacked, but then they ended up pulling back because of the defeat. It was a pretty good victory, I think. 5,100 casualties for the enemy. That's better than 1/4 of their army. They lost half their guns. We didn't lose a single gun. We did lose 650 cavalry, mostly in that one brigade. We lost 1,200 infantry, so 1,800 to 5,200. I'd consider that a victory. It certainly could have, if we had a full day there to continue to attack and pursue and things like that, that might well have ended up being a major victory. I think if you lose a third of your army, it becomes a major victory, but I'm not 100% sure. It's too bad we didn't force any of their brigades to surrender, though. It feels like Bragg probably should have. Only 500 men left in that unit. But I don't know how many, like, actual killed. The problem is the wounded all mostly returned to service. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Gratiot, the commander of that rebel brigade, loses face. The battle for Manassas Junction ended with the South Carolina State Militia retreating in panic. My command has earned a total victory with the enemy running for their lives. The enemy's reportedly suffered 5,200 men as casualties, 650 killed. Our losses were 1,889 men, 282 killed, so less than half. But we did have 456 missing, so deserters presumably. We captured almost 3,400 rifles and 8 guns from the battlefield. Good job, General McClellan. So the Army of the Potomac still has about 20,000 men in service. The South Carolina State Militia, meanwhile, about 13,000. And they will undoubtedly pull back. Now, the other question I have is, like, this victory, is General McClellan still disgraced? He's still infamous. You can't tell me that you couldn't be undefamed. Like, there's got to be a way, because he's a rising star fame-wise, but then he's defamed, which hurts his morale. Like, that's dumb. After winning victories like that, he should not be defamed. Meanwhile, we're going to get reinforcements of artillery in 10 days. Actually, horse artillery in 1 day. Gibbs Brigade loses 607 men. They still have 1,767. Stone and Fitzjohn Porter. Okay. Buford, I think, is still defamed as well. Ugh. That's frustrating. Anyway, they're going to pull back. We do have an indication. It looks like Hampton's division is still back by Richmond. I don't know if they've sort of become the Richmond garrison. They've got about 13,000 men. We have a report that the Army of the Tennessee has moved into Charlottesville to the west of Richmond. They have about 23,000 men. And then the Army of the Potomac might be moving south, but they have about 7,000 in theater. So if you add all that up, that's 30, 43, and when these guys are healthy, 60. So they have 60,000 troops all told when all their forces are healthy in the Richmond theater. So that's kind of interesting. But I think that's a good stopping point there. I think that was a nice flanking maneuver, a nice little victory there to stop the retreat, and relatively cheaply done. So that I think we won that pretty comfortably. Anyway, guys, definitely interested in hearing your thoughts. Leave your comments down below. And with that being said, we're going to wrap this episode of Grand Tactician: The Civil War up. This game is coming out on September 24th. At least it's exiting early access on September 24th. It's already available if you're interested in picking it up on Steam. And until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying once again, thank you very much for watching. And until next time, I'm out.